Cara, welcome back to my channel. So today I just want to go through a few different ways that I overcome the fear of the blank page, really. A lot of people say that they don't really know how to start, they haven't got the tools or the equipment, so I just wanted to show you a few different ways to make some different backgrounds on your pages. So I've got a few different tools here. I've got a couple of paintbrushes, a palette knife. I've got one of these little rolling sponges which normally you find in the kids department, but they're quite good for coverage. I've got a brayer that gives quite a different effect. I've got some of these makeup style brushes. They're quite good for blending inks and paints. However, if you use paints with them, make sure you wash them because the paint will dry hard and your brushes will get hard. And then I've got this little box that I just collect a load of random stuff in. So this is just a normal washing up sponge. I'm going to show you that you can do different techniques with this one. And then I've got this squeegee for a gel plate. However, using an old store card or credit card is just as good. And then I've got these makeup sponges as well. The other stuff in here I use more for printing, which maybe I'll add on at the end, but I do just want to show you how to get the paint onto the page first. Oh, and I've got some bubble wrap, which is also quite a good, more of a printing, but you could cover your whole page in it, I suppose. So I'm just going to grab one at a time, and I've got two journals out. I've got my small Use It Up journal, which is A5 in size, and I've got my large A4 Canson Art Book 1, just because the brayer, obviously you can cover quite a lot of space. I just want to show you how that works on a bigger space rather than a smaller one. So as I've mentioned the brayer, I'm going to just pop this one to the side and I'm just going to start with the brayer. So I find paper plates are quite good for brayers because it's a nice flat surface. I would also sometimes use my gel plate to do this. As you can see, there's a very small coating of paint on here and it gives quite good coverage. Now that there is caused because I haven't rolled it along my whole brayer. If you do the whole, then you get the whole coverage. I would also do it both ways if I'm looking to cover my whole page, that is, and just fill in the gaps where I feel necessary. And then you've got a whole page covered in your first layer, really within seconds. And what I like about this is that it's not unified. It's quite random in that the roller picks up the paint and there's a background started already. To clean my brayer, I would just roll it off onto some excess paper. As you can see, there's barely on in there, and then I would just give this a wipe with a baby wipe, or you can go and wash it. That's entirely up to you. So that's a brayer. I will leave the items there as we do them. I'll show you the sponge roller now because obviously it's kind of the same technique. Just grab another colour. Because this is nearly dry, I'm just going to pop it on the same palette. Obviously, if you want to keep them separately, if you're actually doing a project. Again, with this, what you want to do is coat the whole of the sponge, because then you get a much more even roll. And I find it's best to do this in little layers as I've just done. So squeeze a little bit of paint out, and then you can see like my whole brayer is not saturated in paint, but it is covered. And then you get this really nice effect. And again, you can quite easily cover your whole page. I mean, that's literally one paintful of brayer, and it wasn't even full. I do like to go both ways because then you don't get the stripes. However, I can give you a little technique to get rid of your stripes after. So again, that's a whole page already with base layer number 1 down. Quite like the stripes I've given myself, but again, you could cover that up with some stenciling if that's what you wanted to do. So that's object number 2. Again, make sure you wash these out under running water. Don't put them away like this, as that will go hard. So that's a brayer for gel printing, or brayer, and a sponge roller. 2 very different techniques. Two very the same techniques, just rolling, but 2 very different backgrounds. So yeah, that's those 2. I'm going to bring my little book back now, just to show you a couple of different ways with the brushes, and just let this dry. It's very warm here in Morocco, so that will dry quite quickly. So here's my little journal back. So with the sponges, with the brushes, I've got 2 out because what I wanted to show you is a wet brush and a dry brush. Well, I haven't got myself with some water, so I'm going to use this little spritz bottle just to wet my brush when I'll show you that. So for a dry brush technique, you don't want too much paint on there, because you want to keep the kind of roughness of the brush strokes. Because this, do as lightly as you can, hoping that's picking up. It's quite a light colour, but can you see the brush strokes are quite nice and uneven? And then to make it a wet brush, I would normally dip it in water, but what I'm just going to do is spritz this because I forgot. So now my brush is wet, and it's a very different look on my page. I hope you can see that. So that's wet brush and dry brush. So that's another style. And then I brought out my palette knife because I quite like a kind of scrapey effect, and it's kind of the same as what this credit card will give you, or old store card. And then I'll show you the squeezy, because this is rubber, or silicone actually. It does give a different effect to the credit cards, but you can get, you know, the same effect. I'm going to show you those on the bigger page. I'm just going to show you one of these blending brushes while I've got this green paint out. So all you do, load up your brush. Just going to use the paint that's already there, and I'll go in circular motions because it gives you, this is also good for using through a stencil, so it gives you that nice sort of blended look. And while I'm on it, I'm going to grab that line back, and I'll just do the same with the makeup sponge. So these I tend to use through a stencil, but you can also use these to smear paint on. So you can, like this, dab, or, you know, just play with what you have. And again, you can see that could quite easily cover my page. Obviously you can make it so that you could circle it so you don't have those harsh lines. Some people don't like those harsh lines, some people love the kind of line, but that's just that one sponge, 2 separate ways dabbing it on, and, you know, circular motions. So that's that. Pop those there so that I can wash those. So I'm going to bring back the big journal, and no, I'm not. I'm gonna, yes I am. I'm going to bring back the big journal. There we go. Pop the small one to dry. I'll just move these ones out of the way so I don't knock them over. So I think I have another empty page here. Yeah. I just always protect my under pages as well, because if I'm going to do a full page, I don't want it to go over the edge and smudge underneath. Sometimes it happens. You can't really help it. Let's go with, let's have some tangerine. So with the credit card. Just scrape. And you can see you get quite good coverage. If your credit card's loaded, you get the full lines like what I got there. With less paint, obviously you get this, which I love. So sometimes I will do a full loaded card on one sheet of paper and then kind of the odd last bits onto another, but I just want to show you how you can do the whole page here. Now I say the whole page, but I would leave it a little bit like that. See if I can fill this edge in a little bit. Maybe a little bit more paint. What did I have? Tangerine. I'm going to use tangerine for the other scraper anyway. That way, this now is quite a good coverage of page for a background. And I would leave these blank spots anyway, because whatever I put on top of there will cover and it'll give a texture. I don't tend to have a big area like this covered when I'm doing a background, but for the sake of showing you guys this, obviously that's fine. So let's do tangerine again and I'll show you the gel plate squidger. As I said, you can get the same coverage really with both of these things, but this does bend. You know, it's, if you load that up you can get, I love the, if you load it up you get the same as this, and if you have only got a little bit of paint on it you get that. That's the technique I was kind of, this is what I love, the kind of rough, unexpected, unplanned techniques where the background has that little bit more interest. So that's the gel plate squidger, which is just a silicone triangle. I've seen people use silicone spatulas for this in place of these, but as I said, the store card, you saw it there a bit, I should have done a bigger bit, but you saw it there, it does give this effect as well. And this tool, again, just do it on this page because obviously this page is going to get covered. Again, gives you full if you want it full, if you only want it half. You can see another scraping method. I'm just going to use up this paint now to fill in this page, do your scraping backwards and forwards and just fill in your page, or use it on top of another technique to give you those scrapey lines. Just, I don't like to waste paint, so I'm just gonna so there we go, that's the other scraping style method. As one thing I do quite a lot to cover a big page like this, and I'm actually just going to do it on this page. So again with the tangerine, in fact because this page is nearly covered, I'm going to show you on this page. Grab one of your baby wipes, we've all got these, and I'm going to fill in the rest of the page. Now because the baby wipe has got moisture in it, it will go this kind of faded colour, but you can just load more paint on and fill that in, and that also gives you a full page coverage if you wanted to. Obviously I had the scraping underneath, but you can see that would quickly fill in your page and you'd have layer one of a background. Then with your baby wipes, obviously it would have more paint on it than this, but you can leave this to dry overnight, and then this makes some really good collage material. I've got pages in my journals, I'm not sure if there's one in here, I've got pages in my journals where I've stuck in one of those napkins as a background, and if I can find one I'll show you, but I'm not sure if it's in this new use it up actually yet. But this is a baby wipe technique with different colours, So again, just smushing them on with the baby wipe. This journal I use to use up any paint that's left on my palette. So if there was orange left on that palette there, I would just get this journal out, smear it on, maybe with a baby wipe or whatever I've been using really. So if I was using a sponge, I'd use that. But no, there isn't one in there. But anyway, that's the baby wipe technique. So I'm going to go back to the little journal now to let those dry. And I'm just going to do a little bit of sponging with this one. And another technique that I quite like is just using my finger as well. So, what colours haven't we used? Let's try, oh, let's do red. I don't normally do a red background. Oops. Try and shake your paint with your lid on. So this sponge, as I said, it's a normal washing up sponge. This, quite good for coverage. Or this is also amazing. And you've got effectively two tools. Let's look at the difference. I'm going to do them next to each other so you can see. Look at the difference in techniques just from one washing up sponge, which if you're in the UK, you can get a pack of about 10 of these for £1 from Poundland. And I'm sure where you are, you can get these in the cheap shops. So again, wash them though, because they will dry hard. And then, yeah, my last kind of technique is I do love a bit of finger painting. So you can smear it in and just have fun and get messy like we did when we were kids. So that's finger painting for you. And again, once you've finished with that, this is now becoming obviously red and orange because of the colours I chose. And this will dry out nicely and become something else. So those are the techniques I wanted to show. So I'll have a quick run through. I used a brayer, a sponge roller. I used, oh, let's grab these. A dry brush, a wet brush, a makeup brush, blending brush, a makeup sponge for a couple of different techniques, a washing up sponge, both sides. This is a palette knife. Also used a credit card or store card and my silicone squeegee. So those are quite a few different ways. Oh, as well as a baby wipe and my fingers. Those are quite a few different ways for you to build up your backgrounds and get a lot of different techniques going. I love this. I quite often do this with different colours. So like I do this green, a darker green, and maybe a hint of blue in the background. And then with a piece of bubble wrap, let's just quickly show you this. Use a brush or your finger just to pop that on. This gives you good printing. Oops, I smudged it, but there. Good printing options. Again, like I said, you could cover the whole page in just bubble wrap like this. And there's another layer. And if you smudge it like I did, it wouldn't really matter because it's just your background layer. And then I would use, as I said, lids. I have a little tiny card as well that I use. I've got lids in various sizes just for printing with. Oh, and I've got this. This is quite cool. This is just a piece of cardboard, and I glued one end, wrapped it around a pencil to get some lines, glued one end, and then just let it unravel a little bit, and stuck it together, and it made this really cool. I'm just going to do this as a circle. Apparently I'm not. I'll show you the lids as I've done the circle. So this just makes a circle. As you can imagine, these all make circles, just different sizes. Sometimes because of the little bits you get like a broken circle, which I quite like. So that's why I collect a variety of lids. There's that one, and this can be look at that. It looks a bit like a rose to me. I think it's really cool, and that is just a balled up piece of cardboard, a strip of cardboard. So I think actually what it was a page in my journal I cut to make a different size page and rolled it up, and you can see it brings this nice shape. So you can make them tighter, you can make them looser. Well, the other thing you can use, which I haven't actually got to hand, is a toilet roll inner or a kitchen roll inner. Again, use it as a circle, or you can scrunch them up and shape them, or cut them and make shapes with them. But I could show you that another time because there's quite a lot you could do with that. So that's quite a good few different tools. If you don't have all these tools, I've done this technique using a kitchen roll inner before. Put a bit of foil on there or a bit of cling film, or not. You can use it as just the cardboard that it is and just roll it along your page. That also gives you quite a good technique of covering your page. Trying to think of other things. With a baby wipe you can put your paint on it and just dab, which gives you a real nice another different technique. You can do that with kitchen roll, you can do it with tin foil. There's a whole load of things you can do with we call it cling film in the UK. I think in America you call it saran wrap, but again there's so much you can do with it, which I can't show you all today, but that is just a few different ways to get your backgrounds going. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you'd like to see any ways to adapt these into, you know, pages with stencils or stamps, which can easily be added on top and then turned into your journal page using collage, your drawing, more painting, you know, just words, whatever you put on top of your journal pages, but can all be put on top of any of these once they're dry. So thanks for watching. Please give me a little tick in the thumbs up there. Subscribe if you can, and share my channel with your friends to help me grow. Thanks very much for watching today. I will see you again in 2 weeks for my Tuesday top up, but be sure to log on Friday to see what journal page I'm creating next. Cheers guys, bye.